All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Kate Hardy. I am the Human Resources Recruitment Supervisor. I want to welcome you all. This training is being recorded today, so don't let that stop you from asking questions. We're going to have a Q&A at the end. We are here to go over the life cycle of a new hire. We're going to talk about the whole process, start to finish. We'll go over specific forms. We'll talk about the department's responsibilities as well as the HR recruiter's responsibilities. Now, did everybody get the two handouts? You can see on the screen we have a recruitment team. They're going to introduce themselves at the end of the training when we do our Q&A. The most important thing to know about this process is that it is 100% a partnership. So you guys have your responsibilities, we have ours, and when we communicate well and we work together well, it runs smoothly, it runs efficiently, and that's what we're going to go over today. So the first step is, what do you do when you have a vacancy? Someone just came to you, they told you they're retiring, or they've given you their 2-week notice. The first step is to submit that separation report. Now you can find this on the Human Resources section of the county intranet under Documents and Forms. And you want to make sure that you're submitting page 1 the day the person notifies you that they're leaving, and you want to submit page 2 the last day that they're at work. Now, pro tip, make sure you're using Chrome, save it to your desktop, that makes it a lot easier. There is a red submit button on the top of each page. If you click on that, it's going to open up your Outlook email. All of the email addresses are preloaded, makes it super easy for you, and then you can just send that email. Now, once you've done that, you want to submit your requisition through NeoGov. So the requisition is your official request from county administration to actively recruit for your position. It goes through a whole process of approvals from your department, human resources, finance, and then lastly, county administration. A couple things to note with the requisition. With one of the fields, it'll ask for the hiring managers. Anyone that you want to see those applications as they're coming in on NeoGov, make sure you're listing them in that hiring manager field. And you can have as many hiring managers as you want. So if you have a team of people that are reviewing these applications, you can put them all on there and they'll all see them. There's also a section on the requisition that asks for the civil service job specification for requirements that are not on that civil service job specification. So if your position requires a physical, a driver's license, CDL, things like that, you want to make sure that you're checking those boxes so that your recruiter knows, do I have to schedule them for a psych eval? Do they need a medical exam? That's how we figure that out. So that's your requisition. You're going to log into your NeoGov account by going to neogov.com. Your username is your entire county email address. And when you get there, you're just going to go to the NeoGov Jobs drop-down menu, select Requisitions, and then you can click the Add button. Now, the first handout that you guys received is the hiring manager's checklist. I actually created this as part of this training. It goes over all of the steps that you guys are responsible for. It's a handy resource for you as you're going through the process. I created the same type of checklist for our recruitment team so that as we're going through, we're just checking the steps off. We're going to go through this just a little bit, so if you can grab that handout. Now, on the right side, I want to just talk about the working title. Some of our positions have a working title. Not everyone does. You don't need to put one there if you don't want to. The EP department code, it's really important that you guys make sure you communicate that to your recruiter. Once we're finished doing the pre-employment process and onboarding someone, our staff are uploading them into our EP system, and we need that department code. It's usually your department, an underscore somewhere in there along with your unit or division. If you're not sure what your EP department code is, talk to your timekeeper. They can give that information to you. Next up, we have that target date of hire. So for most of us, the target date is going to be ASAP, right? You want that person to start as soon as possible. There are some departments who have specific training classes. So there's more of a target orientation date. If that's your situation, you need to make sure you're communicating that to your recruiter when you're sending them the information to onboard the person. Otherwise, if you don't give us a specific target date, we are going to run with the assumption it's as soon as possible, and we're going to go full steam ahead and get them on for you as soon as we're able to. Now, underneath that, we have a section for if it's a rehire, are they cleared? You want to make sure that you're clearing any people who have previously worked here. On the left side, I'm just going to talk about appointment type. So who here has a good understanding of civil service? Feels like when they're interviewing people and they ask questions, they can answer those questions, or I'm seeing some yeses, some nos, a little bit of maybe. Okay. So at every orientation, we actually do civil service at a glance. So I'm going to do that for you now. We follow the New Jersey Administrative Code, Title 11A and 4A. There are two types of service. There's classified service and unclassified service. Now within the classified service, we have non-competitive titles and we have competitive titles. In those competitive titles, your employees will have to compete through a system of merit and fitness by examination. If you are hiring someone in a non-competitive title, or you are hiring them off of a civil service list where they already took that exam, they are going to have what's called a regular appointment. So what that means is once they start on day one, they're going to have that 90-day working test period. A lot of you are familiar with that? Yep. Now, if they're in law enforcement, it's going to be a 12-month working test period from the police academy completion when they receive that PTC certification. So that's a regular appointment, non-competitive title, or you're hiring off of a civil service list for a competitive title. If you are hiring someone in a competitive title and they have not taken that examination for merit and fitness, it's going to be a provisional appointment. And that's important to note, especially when you're interviewing people, because they need to understand how that's going to affect them as they go through the process and down the line. And we always go over that as well when we do those conditional offers. Now, the second class of service is the unclassified service. That is at will, without tenure. Those employees serve at the pleasure of the appointing authority. So any questions regarding civil service? Okay. If they come up later, you guys can contact our office at any point and we can walk you through the process. So this checklist that I created, it's a resource for you. You're not required to do it. I would encourage you to. I think it will help you, especially for those departments who maybe only do one hire a year. Yes, there are some lucky departments that only do one hire a year. For some of you who are more often, it's just a great tool, a great resource. I would also encourage you to send it to your recruiter. A lot of the information on the top section that you're going to be inputting, they need, and it'll just make the process a little more efficient. Again, it's not a requirement. I would just encourage you to do it. Yes?
Question about some of the civil service, the provisional, non-provisional. When should that communication occur? So should we be attempting to explain that to them during the interview process?
Yes, I think you should, because you don't want to waste your time or anybody else's. So why go through the interview process and then when your recruiter calls them to make that conditional offer and explains the provisional process, have them go, wait, what? If I don't pass or if I'm not reachable, what happens to me? We don't want that, right?
So we should be communicating
Yeah.
with our recruiter prior to the interview.
Yes, and you want to explain it to the candidate as you're there for the interview so that they understand how it's going to affect them. If you need, as I said, assistance in explaining that, talk to your recruiter beforehand. They'll go over the particulars of a provisional appointment, how it will affect the candidate, and then that will set you up for an interview where you can explain it clearly. Yes? You guys are going to be sent the checklist. So I literally just created it for this training, so we'll get it out to all of the hiring managers. Okay. So now you've submitted your requisition. The next step is to, once you get that approval for the requisition, log into your NeoGov account. You want to check the approvals tab. Now currently the NeoGov system has a bug. They're working on their development team to fix it, but right now, every once in a while, when someone submits a requisition, the system automatically approves it. So you may have a situation where you got your approved requisition, you're posting it, you're interviewing, you've got your candidate, you send everything to your recruiter, and we're going to double check that as we're compiling everything, you have a requisition. No one wants at that point to tell you you don't have a requisition approved. So please make sure as you're doing this, you are double checking that. When you log into your NeoGov account, just click on the specific requisition that's been approved and then click on that approvals tab right there. And you'll see that preloaded approval process, and just make sure that it's been approved all the way down to our County Administrator, Terry O'Connor. So once you have confirmed that you have an actual approved requisition, you're going to want to post your position as an anticipated vacancy internally. We always post internally first. You're going to use the job posting notice. You can find this on the Human Resources section of the county intranet. It's under Documents and Forms. You want to make sure that you are posting this for 5 business days. But if your position is covered by a collective bargaining unit, make sure you're reading that union contract to see if there are additional stipulations. It may have language in there about posting it for a longer period of time. There may be some specifics about how you post it, or do you email it to the union members. Once you do that, as you're doing your interviews, if you don't have a successful internal candidate or you don't have any internal candidates, this is the point when you're going to reach out to your HR recruiter and let them know that you want to have that posted externally. So when you reach out to tell us that, you need to send us your posting language. So it's going to include at least 3 to 5 sentences summarizing what the job is, a minimum of 5 bullet points with specific job duties and responsibilities, and any specific requirements. So are there educational requirements? Do they require licenses or certifications? Now, I have the Civil Service Title Search website on the screen. You can look up the specific title that you're recruiting for if you need some additional information. Use it as a resource. Please do not copy it verbatim. The reason we do this is we found over the years that when we have a more specified job posting for your department, people are more interested. Anyone here read a job spec and think, well, that's very general? It's not very specific. And we all know that a lot of our departments use the same titles for civil service, but it doesn't always lend themselves to what the specific department or job is. So you want to make sure you're sending that to your recruiter. Once we receive that, we're going to post it on the NeoGov career pages. We're also going to link that posting to our Visit Monmouth vacancy page, and then we're going to post it on the intranet if it's a new position. Now, once we have that posted, we've actually set the system up in NeoGov, so as people go in and apply, those applications are automatically referred to you guys. We used to, years ago, we would review them first, make sure that they met the qualifications, and then send them. We find that that just delayed the process, so you guys get them right away. It makes it a lot more efficient. Now, after we've posted this, if you find after a few weeks that you're either just not getting quality candidates, or maybe you haven't, I hope this never happens, but you're not getting any candidates applying, reach out to your recruiter. There are other options. We could post it on LinkedIn, Indeed. We can post it on some college boards for people just graduating from college. There are other options that we can help you with. And when we do this, we find that it does help the department. So don't be afraid to reach out and say, hey, what are my options? What else can we do? Now, once we've posted it and you start to see those emails from NeoGov saying that you have applications that are referred, you're going to log into your NeoGov account. It's always going to log you right into your NeoGov dashboard. You want to make sure you're toggling over to your OHC dashboard. Now, you can see on the screen, the first thing on your dashboard is going to be your My Tasks. So if you're someone that's been assigned to approve requisitions, any requisitions that you need to review are going to be in this section. We then have your My Candidate section. That's where you're going to be able to click on the candidates, review their application, disposition them, moving them to reject or interview. And then we have the interview self-scheduling tool that's in that same section. So you can use this to create an interview schedule with specific dates and times, and then send a notice to your candidate through NeoGov to invite them to log in and select that date and time to interview. Now, the one thing that I'll caution you on with this is that when we first went live with this system, anyone who was moved to interview, we tested this and candidates wouldn't see that. They can only see when their application is received. However, NeoGov every once in a while does updates. We just recently found out that when you move someone to interview, your candidate can see that. So if you're going over applications and you think maybe you want to bring someone in, but you're not quite sure, I would encourage you to move them to review. That's your maybe pile. Do not move someone to interview until you are definitely going to interview that person. And then lastly, you have your My Requisitions section where you can review the status of all of your requisitions. Now, if you're a new hiring manager or you're one of those lucky departments that does one hire a year, and you want some NeoGov training or a refresher, you can log on to our Human Resources section of the county intranet. We have a NeoGov section. There is a 26-minute training video that goes over all of the online hiring center processes that you guys as hiring managers need to know. We also have the presentation from that training if you want to print it out. There's also 3 helpful how-to guides that go over how to create and approve requisitions, how to review applications and disposition them, as well as step-by-step instructions on how to use that interview self-scheduler. There's also screenshots in there. It's super helpful. I would encourage you all to watch the video, print out those how-to guides or save them to your computer so you can access them at any point. Once you've done that, if you have any additional questions about NeoGov, please don't hesitate to reach out to your recruiter. We can help you through the process. If there's any issues, we're always there for you as a resource. Now, as you're reviewing the applications that you're receiving, you want to make sure that the application is completed in full, especially the reference section. And this is going to be really important in a little bit, and I'll explain why. Every applicant here needs to submit 3 references. The only requirement is that it's not a relative. Now, it'd be great if they were all professional references, but especially people just starting out might not have that. So it just needs to be someone who can speak to the character of the candidate. It needs to have their full name, their mailing address, at a minimum, the town and state that they live in, and a phone number to contact them. If you find someone that you want to bring in for an interview and you see that their reference section is incomplete, please reach out to them before the interview. Ask them to bring that information into the interview so you have it at that point. Now, you also want to make sure that your candidate meets the civil service job specification requirements. I mentioned earlier, we don't want to waste anyone's time, right? So there's no point in bringing someone to interview if they don't have what's required on the job spec. So make sure if there is an education requirement, if there are licenses or certifications or experience requirements, that you review their application to confirm that they have that. Every civil service job spec has a portion on it that talks about requirements. Sometimes it will say that you can use experience in place of college credits. So just review that so that you know what your specific position requires. Because when we get into those situations where someone's being hired as a provisional, or down the line when you want to promote them into an inline title, we want to make sure that they meet those baseline requirements so you guys don't get jammed up later in the process, right? Also, you want to make sure if there are employment gaps on the application that during the interview you're asking them about that. During the interviews, it's best practice to always have 2 people in the interview room asking the questions. You're always going to ask the same primary questions, but you can ask your candidates different follow-up questions. You need to make sure that that basic process is the same for all of your candidates. Lastly, if your applicant is a previous employee, before you ever schedule them for the interview, please reach out to your recruiter so that we can confirm that they are in fact eligible for rehire. Again, we don't want to waste your time or a candidate's time going through this process only to find out you want to make an offer to someone that is not eligible for rehire. So when you're ready to start that interview schedule, you can use the NeoGov self-scheduling tool to, as I said, set up those dates and times and then invite the candidate to select a date and time. If you would prefer, go old school, call them, email them. I've done it all ways throughout my career here. Once you do that, you want to make sure that when you have the interview, if you go to your next handout, it's the interview acknowledgement form. This is your official record of the interview. You want to make sure that you have the department and the specific title that they are there interviewing for. Your interviewers are going to sign and date that middle section, and then your interviewee is going to sign and date the bottom section. Again, this is your official record. of the interview, who was in the room, what they specifically were interviewing for. Now, in addition to that, as you're interviewing your candidates, you're going to be using the applicant log, which is the next handout you have. You can find both of these forms on the Human Resources section of the county intranet under Documents and Forms. Now, once you've completed all of your interviews, you're going to fill out this applicant log. You can put up to 6 candidates on a page. If you have more than 6 people that you interviewed, you can just add a second page. We're going to go through this just briefly. Now, on the top right, you want to make sure that you are putting in your requisition number where it says PARF number in that top right section. You want to make sure that you are listing the specific salary and the recommended salary section. That if there's a specific shift, 8 to 4, 8:30 to 4:30, that you're writing that in the shift information section. Is it a full-time or a part-time position? You want to make sure you're indicating that, as well as the specific work week. We have some part-time employees who their schedule varies. That's okay, right? Varies. We also have some people who have a very set schedule, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That's when they work. You want to make sure that all of this is on the applicant log because this is what your HR recruiter uses to make that conditional offer. If it's not filled out completely, it's going to delay the process. We're going to have to reach out to you, ask you, wait, what's the shift? It needs to go on their offer letter. And can you confirm the salary? What is it? So you want to make sure you're filling it out completely and that your department head signed it. I can't tell you how many times we get these and the department head hasn't signed and we have to send it back. We just don't want to delay in the process, right? We want to make sure that as soon as we get this information, we can just go and make those offers. So again, please make sure you're filling those applicant logs out completely. Now, when you're completed with filling that out, you're going to submit that along with your interview acknowledgement form to your HR recruiter. Once we receive that applicant log and the interview acknowledgement form, we're going to pull the requisition and the candidate's application from our NeoGov system to collect all the information, and we're going to start their onboarding packet. Yes?
The department head is the approving authority?
Is
that where they sign?
Yes.
Okay, so the hiring manager is that.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so once we get all of that information, the first step your HR recruiter is going to do is to send a conditional offer reference review email to county administration. That email needs to include all of the conditional offer information, department, title, salary. It's going to include your candidate's name and their mailing address, as well as the candidate's 3 references and their mailing address. And that's where I said this is going to come into play. So if you send us the packet and the information, and we pull the application from the NeoGov system, and that reference section is not there, okay, now we have a delay in the process. We're going to reach out to you, ask you guys to get the reference information for us, and we won't be able to start the process until we get that. Now, after we send that email, when we get approval to proceed, we're going to contact your candidate over the phone. We're going to give them a verbal conditional offer. We're going to go over all of the terms and conditions of the offer. We'll talk about the civil service title. If it's a provisional appointment, we're going to talk about how that affects them throughout their career here. We'll go over salary, hours of work, any specific benefits that come with this, whether it's medical benefits, paid leave. We're going to discuss a target new employee orientation date. And then lastly, we'll talk to them about the next steps in the process. Now, once they accept, we're going to issue them a written conditional offer, and then we'll forward a copy of that offer to the department's hiring managers. You can see on the screen, these are all the next steps that the recruiters are taking in this process. Not every position requires each step, but there are some baseline steps that we do for everyone. So everyone here at the county has to take and pass a background. We send the background link to your candidate when we issue them their conditional offer. Once they get that, they just click the link, fill it out. It takes less than 10 minutes, and we usually get the results within 3 business days. This is a very important step in this process. I don't know about you guys, but I do not want someone who has committed aggravated assault against a police officer working here at the county, right? So these are all important steps that we take. Next up, if your position requires a driver's license, we're going to run a driver's license abstract. We're not only going to make sure that their driver's license is in good standing, we're going to make sure that they don't have a record of maybe some dangerous driving patterns, right? So we want to make sure that anyone driving a county vehicle is going to do so safely. Anybody who is going to be hired here at the county as a commercial driver's license carrier, we're also going to do the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration and Department of Transportation verification, again, to make sure that they have a clean record and that we feel comfortable with them driving our vehicles. Next up, we have the 3 references. So we do actually call all 3 references. And when we make those conditional offers and we talk about next steps with the candidates, we always tell them to notify their references that we will be calling. If anything is going to delay the process, I can tell you it's always this step. We always have that one person who doesn't answer the phone, doesn't return our calls. I recently had a candidate tell me that their reference was not available before 7 a.m. or after 6 p.m. And I had to explain that that just was not going to work. So we will go out of our way to try. Your recruiters often stay late. We are in our office after 5 p.m. to try to get a reference to answer the phone. It happens. We're okay with that. But after 6 p.m., that's just not going to work. So it's an important step. We ask everyone the same questions. We also will ask follow-up questions if we get that pause or maybe they say, yeah, sure, right? We want to make sure, again, that we're getting you quality candidates. So we'll do that on our end. Next up, we do an employment verification. So if they have given us approval to contact their current employer, we'll contact them, or we'll contact a previous employer. We want to make sure that they're being forthright on their application. We'll match the titles that they've given, years of service at that employer. Then we have our medical exam and drug screening. And this is one of those steps where not every position is going to have this, but those that do, it's a very important step. Now, this process, again, can be delayed a little bit because it's depending on the candidate's availability as well as the clinic's. So often we are scheduling someone a week or a week and a half out just because of those availability conflicts. We usually get the results within 3 business days. Recently, Hackensack has been having an issue with their lab, so the drug screenings are coming back maybe 5 business days later, sometimes 7. We don't want that to happen, but it's just one of those things in life that happens. But again, it's an important step. We do have people that test positive for cocaine. We want to make sure, again, that we're getting you quality candidates to come and work here at the county. Lastly, we have our psychological evaluation. Again, not every position is going to require this, but for those that do, it's an important step. Similarly to Hackensack Meridian, there are delays based on the clinic's availability and your candidate's availability, but these are all important steps, and we're going to make sure that we get them done for you. Now, on the screen, you can see our HR recruiter list. As I had said, in addition to the list I made for you guys, I made one for my own team. A lot of the top information is the same with some minor deviations. And then we have our own checklist so that as we're going through the process, we know exactly where we are. This is not only helpful for us, but it's helpful for you guys. This we use as a cover sheet for all of our candidates' onboarding packets. So when you call at any point, if your recruiter isn't there, it doesn't matter. Any other recruiter can go in and check the status of your candidate to let you know what we're waiting on or where we are in the process. Now, through any of those steps, if your candidate is not cleared, your HR recruiter is going to issue them a rescind letter, rescinding that conditional offer. Once we do that, we are going to forward a copy of that to you guys, the department hiring managers, for your own records. Now, when your candidate is cleared, we're going to contact them over the phone, make a verbal final offer. We're going to talk about scheduling them for their orientation. Once they accept that final offer, we're going to send them out a written final offer letter, and we'll forward it to you guys. We schedule our orientations every 2 weeks. It is a full-day program from 8:30 to 4:30. And all of the candidates are provided all of the information and forms that they need to bring with them. Each candidate has to come with their signed conditional and final offer letter. Our finance department requires that they bring their social security card for payroll purposes. We need to make sure that they have acceptable IDs for the federal I-9 form. And then we have our new employee orientation packet, which is going to include that employee data authorization form, their emergency contacts, the state and federal W-4, as well as that I-9 form. And lastly, any positions that require or make them eligible to receive a hepatitis B vaccination, we're going to make sure we get that form from them, letting us know if we need to schedule an appointment for them or if they're declining it. Now, all of our orientations are maxed out at 30 people. We actually do it here in this room. The reason we have to cap it at 30 is because during that orientation, we give your new hires an hour to take their preventing harassment and discrimination training. And the truth is, ITS only has 30 laptops. So that's why we do that. And now I do want to mention too, as we're working with your candidate, your recruiter is always going to encourage them to wait to give their 2 weeks notice until they get a final offer. So depending on when that final offer is made, based on the orientation schedule, there are going to be times where your new hire is going to not go to orientation for 3 weeks from the date of that final offer just because of where it falls. So keep that in mind. And then lastly, once you get a copy of that final offer, you want to make sure that you reach out to your candidate to go over their day 2 instructions so that they know where to report, at what time, and who they should be asking for. And then any candidates that you guys have interviewed but you didn't select to make an offer to, you want to send out those rejection letters. The last handout that you guys have is a standard rejection letter, and we will email this to you as well. So I'm not going to read it verbatim, but basically it says, thank you for your interest in Monmouth County. We've selected a candidate that more closely matches the requirements of the position, and we wish you well in your career endeavors. Now, we would encourage you guys not to send out that rejection letter until your new hire actually comes to orientation. We have had situations where someone accepts a final offer, and then come orientation day, they don't show up. A lot of you, when you're interviewing multiple people, will have that second candidate as a backup. This is why we suggest do not send out that rejection letter until your person actually shows up, so that if you need to, we can go back to the drawing board, make a conditional offer to your second choice. Now, if there's a candidate that you know absolutely they're not a good fit for the position, you can send out the rejection letter right away. Now, our goal in the future is to have this be an automated system for you. So you're just going to click something and it just goes right out. But for now, this is the process. So at this point, I actually want to invite our recruitment team to come up. They're going to introduce themselves, and then we're going to open this up to any questions you guys may have.
Hi, I'm Kathy McGurran. I'm a recruiter, and it's nice to place some of the faces. I mostly deal with the health department and facilities management, but and I know a few of you don't have that many hires, so I'm glad to have you. I'm Nicole Marone. I'm also a recruiter. I started a month and a half ago, but I'm still able to work with some of you guys, and it's nice to meet you.
Good morning, I'm Nicole Herman. I primarily do the Public Works CDL groups, some of the constitutional surrogate and folks department, engineer, that kind of departments. But we often take on different departments throughout, because Kate likes us to cross-train, so we might all be working with one of you at some point.
Does anyone at this point not know who their assigned recruiter is? Great question. Anytime we switch assignments, your new recruiter is going to reach out to you, introduce themselves, and let you know that from that point forward, they're your new recruiter. Yes?
And can you tell through NeoGov, through the approval process, who your recruiter is? Is that person
I
in the loop?
don't believe, well, they're always in the loop on NeoGov, but I don't know that you guys can see it because that's more on the back end.
Oh, I-
Yeah. He knows.
But it's very funny because a lot of people do think that they are the same.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's why you see the Kate, Catherine, Kathy, Kathleen.
And now we have to use it more. We have two Nicoles.
Yes. We like to keep you guys on your toes, right? All right, any other questions you guys have? Yes?
So with the interview process, you ask a bunch of questions and then you assign it a point value and then you add up the points. You did say that you could could, ask additional things like, gaps in their employment and stuff. How is that reflected in the point?
So you want to ask those initial same questions, and then based on their answer to that question, you want to ask them a follow-up question based on their answer. So it's going to be all part of that one question. Does that make sense? Okay. If not, we can talk afterwards too and go a little more in the weeds on it. Anybody else? Yes.
So if you're a new hire at the ECS, at what point to provide the one that I just offered to is ECS, but it's another division within the department, so I can't see any of the updates with all of that. So at what point do I get notified that that's done? And then
So once your ECS is approved, your recruiter is going to send your new hire or your transferred employee a new appointment letter, and they're going to forward a copy of that to you the same way we would with a final offer letter. Okay, great question. Thank you.
Jamie Corbu in our office, she lets me know, she handles the ECSs on that end of it, she lets me know, this is one of my candidates, and then I'll contact you and I'll reach out to the candidate for that new appointment.
Yes.
And at what point do we let IT know we have somebody coming on board and they have to set all that equipment up and everything?
So as soon as we issue the final offer letter, we give that onboarding packet to Debbie Studer in our office. She uploads them into EP, and that starts a workflow where IT is notified, and they'll be reaching out to you to set them up. These are great questions, guys. Anybody else? Okay, well, thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. Please don't hesitate to reach out to anyone on the team at any point. If your recruiter is not in the office, feel free to contact me, and I'll update you on any questions you may have. Thank you guys so much.